Welcome back. Mrs. Malstadt here. Today we're going to look a little more closely at another argumentative text, and we are also going to be thinking about being word aware as we read these texts. So if you recall from our last lesson, we know that an argumentative text, it's like an opinion text. The writer makes a claim. They take a stance or a position on something, and they try to prove their point and convince their readers of something through evidence and reasoning. So they might support their claim with facts, ideas that can be proven or disproven, or even with their own opinions, their personal thoughts or beliefs on the topic. And then last, in an argumentative text, the author thinks about their audience, that specific group of readers that the author is speaking to or writing to. So we're going to take a look at a piece of text today called Education First. And this was a speech written by Malala Yousafzai. And as we read it today, keep in mind those elements of argumentative text, our claim, what evidence and reasoning the author is using, as well as who the audience is. But also keep an eye out to be really word aware, to be thinking, do I know this word? Do I know how the word is being used? And then trying to figure it out if needed. So, Education First by Malala Yousafzai. In July 2013, the United Nations invited Pakistani teenager Malala to speak about the right to receive an education that all children should have. This is a section of her speech. Wow, readers, can you imagine being a teenager and speaking in front of so many people about education and the right for education? A little backstory on Malala is she grew up in Pakistan until she was about a teenager. And at that time, things began to change for Malala's community, and girls were no longer allowed to attend school. This really upset Malala, and she decided to stand up and fight for her rights for an education because she knew the importance of education for everybody. Well, unfortunately, because she stood up and spoke out, a group called the Taliban found her and shot her. But miraculously, she survived. And so after she healed and she recovered, she was living in England, and that helped her recover at the hospitals there. And after that, she became an advocate for education for girls all over the world, and she continues to do that work. So as we continue reading this piece, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Dear brothers and sisters, we want schools and education for every child's bright future. We will continue our journey to our destination of peace and education for everyone. No one can stop us. We will speak for our rights, and we will bring change through our voice. We must believe in the power and the strength of our words. Our words can change the world. Because we are all together, united for the cause of education. And if we want to achieve our goal, then let us empower ourselves with the weapon of knowledge, and let us shield ourselves with unity and togetherness. Dear brothers and sisters, we must not forget that millions of people are suffering from poverty, injustice, and ignorance. We must not forget that millions of children are out of schools. We must not forget that our sisters and brothers are waiting for a bright, peaceful future. So let us wage a global struggle against illiteracy, poverty, and terrorism, and let us pick up our books and pens. They are our most powerful weapons. One child, one teacher, one pen, and one book can change the world. Education is the only solution. Education first. So what a powerful speech by Malala. Just a teenager at the time giving her speech. And you can see on some of our text features that we're going to get a little bit more information. And so here is a map of Asia, and then you can see where Pakistan is. And then down here in this text box, it says Malala Yousafzai. Malala Yousafzai is an author and an advocate for education around the world. In 2012, she was attacked for her beliefs. She survived and went on to win the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014. Wow, what an honor. So, readers, as we went through, could you get an idea of what Malala's stance was, her claim, and what she was advocating for? Yeah, she was advocating for education for everybody. And then her evidence and her reasoning, well, she talked about how the power and the strength of our words can change the world. If we're united in the cause for education, then we can achieve our goal. She stated some facts that we must not forget that millions of people are suffering from poverty, injustice, and ignorance. And so that's something that you could go and prove or disprove. And then she says, education is the only solution. And so she's stating her opinions and her beliefs there based on some of the facts that she also stated. So readers, were you being word aware as we read as well? Were there any words that stood out to you that maybe had more than one meaning? Or maybe you were kind of, had an idea of how it was used, but maybe not for sure? One word that really stood out to me was the word cause. It says, because we are all together, united for the cause of education. And the way that this is being used makes me think that it's not the type of cause like cause and effect, or short for because. It says we're united for the cause of education. That makes me think it's like a thing rather than a verb, like cause and effect. And then she goes on to say, and if we want to achieve our goal, then let us empower ourselves. And so I'm wondering, just by reading the rest of the next sentence, if a cause might be some type of goal. And so I kind of have an idea. I've used my context clues. I've thought about the sentence that follows, but I'm still not completely sure. So what I can do is use my digital resources. And so remember, readers, when we're being word aware, we try to figure out by using text features, pictures, diagrams, and captions. We read the sentences and words around the new word, looking for synonyms, antonyms, or even the dash to help us out. But after we've tried those strategies, if we still can't figure it out, then we can use a reference by checking a dictionary or online and then thinking about how the word is being used. So let's go to our Google Dictionary, and the word that I want to look up is cause. Okay, so there's a lot of definitions here, and a few of the definitions are nouns, a thing, person, place, or thing, or it could be a verb, like the action. So that's where I was thinking it wasn't the case. I thought it might be something else besides the verb to make something happen, like a cause and an effect. So I don't think it's used in that way. Let's look at some of the nouns. So let me look back again and see how it's being used. Because we are all together, united for the cause of education. A person or thing that gives rise to an action, phenomenon, or condition. So Let's see, the cause of the accident is not clear. That's the example that they give us. I still think that that is like a cause and effect situation, and I'm not sure that that really makes sense in the context of how the word is being used in our text. Let's look at this one. A principle, aim, or movement that because of deep commitment, one is prepared to defend or advocate. So the example is, she devoted her life to the cause of deaf people. So it sounds to me like we might be on the right track with this, like a principle, a movement, a goal, something you're committed to, something that you're prepared to defend or advocate for. So let's see how that would fit in the sentence. Because we are all together, united for the principle of education, for the commitment of education. Yeah, I think that that's making the most sense, our commitment for education. I think that that's a synonym for the word cause in this situation. Let's check the last one just to be sure. A matter to be resolved in a court of law. The example is, 45 causes were entered in the list for the March session. So basically they're saying something that is solved while in court. I don't know that that's really how it's being used in the sentence. I think it's about that commitment that you're being prepared to defend or advocate. And that's exactly what Malala was doing. She is committed to fighting for educational rights for everybody. So readers, as you go through your text today, be thinking about your argumentative texts, who the audience is, what the author's stance is and position and how they're proving that idea, but also be word aware. Be thinking about those words that might be new or interesting, or you might have an idea of how they're used, but you're not completely sure. And remember to use your strategies to continue to figure those out so that you can understand what you're reading even more deeply. Happy reading!